Yeah, see, I think it's not going to follow all three because it's two different entities.
Heather girl.
Like the state sets certain guidelines to make them break it.
No, I'm doing component copies. You just say within hours, we can break it.
Yeah, they're good, yeah.
And make it go up. So he thinks that it's arbitrary to state that the hurricane is coming, so
It could be a hard it's hard to prove arbitrary capricious. You have to prove that board members have material motives besides just the public safety.
Thank everyone. I'd like to call the East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage Meeting to order. March the 2nd. Roll call. Mr. Melanson is out on vacation. Mr. Johnson's at work. And where's Mr. There she is. Okay, everyone else is present. Mr. Kluwer, would you give us the invocation followed by the pledge?
In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. Lord, we ask that you carry everyone through as we're moving closer to hurricane season in the spring. We ask that we get started thinking about this. Lord, let's get our plans together. We ask that you look over the people of Ascension Parish, and especially the elderly. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anyone wishing to speak on any agenda item, please sign in with Heather. I would also, at this time, I would like to see if we could move item 12 and 13. We'll move it to 5A, brought to my report.
Motion.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kluwer, second by Mr. Sadley. Any objection? Motion passed.
You're talking about 12 and 13?
Yes, sir.
So you're going to go to A and B?
Yes.
5A and 5B?
Right.
All right.
On the sponsor on this is Mr. Shake Snyder. I'm gonna forward you, Mr. Shake Snyder. Go ahead and what you have going in.
Yes, a few years ago, we had, in the Panama Conway system, which is the only real system left that is gravity drainage, we had proceeded with approximately $500,000 study within the system to make recommendations on what we should do in the immediate time for drainage. And one of the recommendations was to proceed. The first thing was to clear the debris out, which we've done, and it has made a big difference. I'd like to thank everybody involved. Bill has been a big pusher in that, and that has helped tremendously. And then the next thing was to get some specific sites for maintenance dredging. We have, anybody that has ridden Panama and Conway knows that there is some sludge. It's probably been 50 years since it's been maintained, and this needs to be taken care of. And we want to try to do this as quickly as possible and not wait any longer on this. And so with this, we'd like to move forward.
Mr. Root, go ahead.
I handed out a report that goes along with what Councilman Snyder's talking about. This is basically the administration's recommendations on what needs to be, could be done, some alternatives to solutions in the Panama and Conway Basin area due to drainage. Specifically on this one item for it's number 12 on the list. Direct the administration to proceed with under $50,000 contract environmental permitting, maintenance, dredging. We don't have a big problem with this per se. The fact of the matter is we don't have a good understanding of exactly what places need to be dredged. And we're talking about maintenance dredging, which is silt, removing the silt from some of the locations of this channel. The administration feels that two things that number one, we have to identify those areas. And then we have to do a cost of that to remove the silt from those areas. That in conjunction with the problems getting permits, we have to put all that together and then come back and look at the cost benefit of doing it. I'll give you for instance, if maintenance dredging of the silt outside of Panama Conway gonna cost $500,000, even $1 million, compared to the benefit, we look and see how much comes out, what kind of benefit affords that project. We might look at it and say, agree to it if we can get a permit to do it. On the other hand, if maintenance dredging of the silt costs $3 million, $4 million, that's a whole different story. This is a temporary fix. It's maintenance. It's something that have to be done every few years. It's silt buildup. We have it in all our channels. It's going to come back in several years. And we don't think that spending $3 or $4 million on something like this is beneficial. So again, we want to look at it. We don't have a problem contracting it, going with the engineering firm that has been already involved with a lot of the work on Conway, Panama, and look at it. But we definitely don't want to commit to going any further than that until we actually look at the cost benefit, see what it costs to do it, and the benefits from the job. And that's our only comment on it.
Okay, at that, you finished with
Yes, sir.
the item, Bill? I'm gonna go ahead, we have 3 speakers, and I'll let them come up. Ms. Carla Johnson, on number 12 and 13.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Johnson. I'm a resident in District 2. I live on Hodgson Road. I've been a resident for almost 29 years now, and we haven't had quite the same flooding magnitude we've had over the last few years, even to the point where we've had to sandbag. We've even had an appreciated visit from our Councilman Snyder, and the next time if it would happen, I'm afraid he would have to have hip boots because it has really caused a lot of problems between Hodgson, all the way down Hodgson and Cluwat. But I really think it's important on items 12 and 13 that we move forward on the Panama Canal Conway Bayou project. There was a study, over $500,000 study, outlining the necessary steps to move forward and gave recommendations, and I really think we need to begin to implement that. In other parts of the parish, the council has done a great job of giving relief and voting on items that would pumping stations, dredging, whatever all the other fixes are, especially in the Santa Maria area, that have given relief to the residents. It's time in our area, in our basin, we've not had that attention, and we're feeling the impact. There's a couple that lives on Hodgson. They've never flooded. They're in their 70s now, and they have also had to sandbag and had water in their home. And this is their golden years, and they've never had those challenges before. And so we really are needing to feel the relief. District 2 has updated District 2, we need that updated Panama Canal Conway area. We need the relief. We appreciate your support. So again, we're in favor of items 12 and 13.
Next speaker is Mr. Bill Dawson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Bill Dawson with the Pelican Point Homeowners Association. I also would like to speak in support of these items 12 and 13. First, I'd like to thank the administration and the Drainage Board for the work that's been done, and Councilman Snyder. We have seen some improvements in our drainage over the last year because of work that you guys have done, and we Certainly appreciate that. We also look forward to the work that can be done in the future to improve the drainage system within our basin. As Charlotte has said, we have done a good job in the parish of some of the other basins, and we believe it's time to look at the Panama and Conway Basin also. I'd like to take a minute, and we have representatives from the subdivision here and representatives from other places in the area, so I'd like people to stand that are in support of this, if they will. Thank you, and thank you for coming. So as you guys are probably aware, we have representatives of our age-qualified community, the Greens, which you have to be, I say an old person like me to live in there, but...
Like me and you.
Exactly. But we have representatives from the regular subdivision and other parts, so we have a pretty diverse group of people here. And then additionally, the people that are over by Charlotte and on the other side of 44. So we appreciate you guys' efforts so far, and thank you. And want to urge you to continue to put some emphasis on this for us.
Okay, and the last one is Mr. Jim Fridge.
How are y'all doing today? My name's Jim Fridge. I live on Brittany Road. Just looking at the agenda, and I know that 12 and 13 items are really big issues. There's been so much emphasis placed on the Marvin Bro pumping station and how much good it has done in the past. Now the focus is being directed on the Panama Conway drainage area. I live right off Cluot Canal, and I feel like, I haven't heard much from it, and I know that from the hospital to the railroad looks great. Been cleaned out. That part drains real well. There's been so many issues with this railroad section going under it, along it, and I just haven't heard anything about it, and it affects that. Well, it affects Miss Johnson's, all that. Y'all know that whole area and know the whole scenario. And it just doesn't seem like it would be that big a obstacle to make that correction. So I just want to bring that up. It's still it's a high priority to me and everybody who lives on that Cluot Canal drainage area. But I appreciate all the help y'all have done so far and look forward to some more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Roof.
Okay, and it's good that they brought up some of these subjects. I need to talk about it. Number one is, when we look at a problem in the parish, first thing we ask, what is the problem? And then we try to put in solutions to that problem. When we're talking about Panama and Conway and the events over the last 5 years or more, there's not one event. You got to clarify exactly what event do you want satisfied, solved. Is it a 500-year rain event in that area that you want solved? Is it backwater flooding from a storm surge like we had in Isaac, what we probably have again? What is the problem? These are two different issues. In fact, one, if you try to solve one, you'll probably hurt the other, okay? The only way you can prevent back surge protection is to a levee pump system. You got to block it, just like we did with the levees and the pump station that we already have. You got to block it, okay? Or you provide some kind of means of storage, or you put in more stricter ordinances in that area, say you got to build everything up higher. And that's it. Now, if you're looking at a headwater event, an event where you got a major rainfall in that area, trying to get the water out, well, then the solution is opening up your channels, opening up your bottlenecks, and getting the water to Lake Marpaw. But again, if you open everything up, you got a surge, it's going to come up quicker. You put in a levee pump system to satisfy the storm surge and Amite River flooding, then you block off all the storage area from headwater, and now you got to put in some pretty good pumping system to be able to get that water out when you get this heavy rain event in the basin. So again, right now, nobody's really talking about what solution you want us to go after. Or do you want us to just throw a blanket on everything, look, solve all the problems? And we can't. Now, we are looking at some things right now. And in fact, it's in the works, it's in engineering, and it's about ready to go for permitting. And this one solution that we're looking at actually is a combination headwater and backwater, and specifically in the Conway Bayou. The main problem that we have is in the area from Silverleaf by Hodgson Road all the way down to Cloat Ditch and Brittany Street and Sorrento. They also have the Touye Road area. Specifically on the Brittany Road solution, what we're trying to do right now, in fact, we are doing, we have in engineering a design coming up to how big Cloat Ditch needs to be. Now, not specifically Cloat Ditch. It probably don't need to be enlarged that much more. It needs to be improved. But when it gets to the train trestle, at that point there, you have two other overflows from Bayou Conway going to that same point. And that's coming across Brittany Street at two locations. And they have serious flooding issues right there. What happens is it gets to that train trestle. You have three conveyances coming to one. It crosses that train trestle, and the train trestle is plainly big enough. But once it gets that back there, it goes into one single ditch. That ditch goes to Airline Highway. Once it crosses Airline Highway, it spreads over. It's no really established channel going from Airline to Bayou Francois. That's where it's trying to go. What happens is it can't go that way. It backs up. It starts following the train trestle down to Sorrento and flooding all the area on that side of Brittany Street. And it backs up also all the way up to Silverleaf. It can't get out. We got a project engineer looking at improving that whole stretch overflow from Bayou Conway into Bayou Francois. We want to take it into Bayou Francois. The other thing, the problem at Airline Highway, once it crosses Airline, the only little ditch that has some conveyance to Bayou Francois actually starts going north, going against the current when we have the flood station running. So what happens is it can't get out. It just spreads out. What we want to do is recut that ditch, make a real channel out of it, and cut it more inline downstream, going downstream into Bayou Francois, so the pumping station actually take the flow. So what we're looking at doing, adding another pump at Marlboro Pump Station. With that pump and the additional capacity that will give us, and if we improve the channels, in other words, we're going to make an overflow from Conway Bayou into Bayou Francois and actually take it into our pumping system. And we're working on it right now. We'll probably be going to permit the design should be ready in another month or so, and then we're going for permit on that. So that's a major improvement. Now, it'll give us both scenarios, somewhat of a solution of both scenarios. Backwater flooding comes up, floods that area, tries to do the same thing, overflows. Headwater comes in, it tries to do the same way, overflows, try to get to Francois. So that's our main deal right now, is to put those improvements in where that system will actually pump, we actually pump the overflow from Conway into our pumping system. And that can be controlled at Bayou Conway with control structures and everything else. So that's number one, that's the first project. The other thing, we looked at many alternatives on Panama Canal. And again, on Panama, it's a different issue. It's a different animal altogether. If you look at the complaints and you look at some of the problems in that area, you had some issue with backup water flooding. But the main issue is with headwater, mostly with some major rain events, some record-setting rain events. And then we got to settle back and say, look, are we going to go around the parish and protect everybody in the parish from a 500-year rain event? We can't do it. And if you are, put in the ordinance that every subdivision got to go with 500-year event protection. And if it is some concerns at localized areas in the Panama Basin, you come out a lot better by doing a specific protection of some problem areas. Ring levees, protection along the Panama with some temporary pumping situations, or something like that to get the water out when the water starts backflowing into the subdivision. We're looking at those alternatives. For us, we already looked at the alternative of blocking off Panama and sending that to the Mississippi River. Cost prohibitive, number one, permitting almost impossible. I already talked to the Corps about it. Said it's just not going to happen. Even that, you look at the cost and it's prohibitive. But again, unless it's not a wide range problem, specifically on the Panama Canal, let's look at area or spot locations where we can protect them. I think we can spend the money there, they're protected, and it costs a lot less money to this kind of benefits. So again, we are looking, and in that handout I gave you, it gave our justifications for what I'm talking about. And this is what I mean by going forward with projects. We do have projects going, specifically on Conway at Brittany Street and Silverleaf and Hodgson Road. We're not sitting on our thumbs on this thing. We're moving forward, and we should be able to start doing some digging, depending on the permit, the latter part of the year. You know. So now, I'll be glad,
Yeah.
Councilman, to,
Yeah, I'll be glad to say a few things.
yes.
Parish President, do we have any channel improvements on the books for Francois and New River?
We do maintenance on them once we've dredged them. We've dredged them once, and then we have to go back
The
and
dredging, I'm talking about from Papera,
no,
from Pico Lumber Company to the pumping station. We have no,
nothing
nothing
at
that
all.
I know
No.
of.
We have just done a major multi-million-dollar expansion of the Francois completed in 2002.
That's correct.
And we doubled the size of it, just about.
That's absolutely correct. And since that time, in the last event, I think it was 34 hours, we had 6 pumps running, am I correct? We were at maximum. We didn't bring down the water at all.
No, because.
Okay, so by all accounts, everybody I talked to, we're at maximum in Marvin Bro. Now, we keep talking about putting in 7 pumps. Am I correct?
We already voted on that. We're picking
already voted
a
on it. We're moving
contractor.
forward.
Yeah, that's correct. Mm-hmm.
Over and over and over again, we're told that 7 pump is not gonna run 7 pumps. We're gonna run 6 pumps. That's for redundancy.
Most of it.
That's what we've said
In the
publicly.
event that
Well,
one of them breaks down, yes, we'll have something, at
So-
least be able to hold where we're at today. But hopefully, in a terrible situation, it'll certainly help us. We can run it sometime.
But we are at maximum.
Not
Pretty much.
necessarily. No, but let me clarify. You know, right now, we can handle our flow under the design phases of the pumping station without any problem with 6 pumps. The fact of the matter is, we've been getting above that over the last, well, especially with this last 500-year event. It can't be expected. But let me tell you this. With that, with 6 pumps, we held our own. Under a 500-year rain event, we held our own. The fact of the matter is, with this number 7 pump and some improvement we're going to do to the rest of the pump station, the overflow from Conway Bayou, it's going there anyway. It's going there through, except it's taking a long time to get
The reason it's
there.
going there is because everything else is stopped up. That's why it's going there, because it can't go anywhere else.
No, I'm going to refute that, council member. You can't say that a surge from Isaac is caused by the stopping up of the canal. The surge from Isaac, which was the first time they experienced the problem on Brittany Street, it came up the Conway, and it flooded over and everything and caused a problem, and there's a problem in Sorrento.
This body right here, in the past years, 20-something years, has, the best thing that ever happened was the Marvin Bro Pump Station in Gonzales. We wouldn't have any development there. We'd still be having levees around the recreation center and everything else. We've taken care of that. We've done Henderson Bayou lately. We're working on the Laurel Ridge levee extension to protect all of them people that have been paying taxes for a long amount of time. And we've shown a tremendous amount of improvement. And this is next. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about this body has been unanimous in showing that we want to go to the Panama Conway system and proceed with the same pump and levee type system that we've done everywhere else in this parish. The only reason it was left off of the Follett plan is because there wasn't anybody living there 30 years ago. Now, that's where the population has to go, because it is, for most of the area, the next place that people has to develop. But it also leaves for a tremendous amount of other people in this situation. And I go back to about our pumping station. Since we are at capacity, now we have on the books to take Goudin and clean that out. So we're going to put water on in that system faster. We're gonna go to Black Bayou, we're expanding that. We're gonna put more water on there faster. We're gonna take Upper Gonzales, so we're gonna clean that out and put more water on there faster. We're talking about taking the Clouat ditch and the Melanson ditch and put more and more water on there. And the fact of the matter is, the reason it didn't flow across there before is because the water in the Francois at its elevation that they had was higher than what it was in the Conway. So if we can't pump out, if we're not gonna dredge that drainage canal that goes to Marvin Bro and make it twice as wide to accommodate all this new water, we're not gonna get any relief. We can clean the ditches out all we want, it's not going anywhere. Eventually, we need to pump and levee the Panama Conway system. That is the desire to this board. And for the life of me, 2 years ago, we went to President Martinez's office with a group of people and Drainage Board chairmen and everybody else. We were assured 2 years ago, after we did a $500,000 study that nobody knew where it was at that point in time, that recommended then that we needed to muck out these canals. And we spent all that money, hire an engineering firm, get that done and make a recommendation, and then we don't do anything.
We didn't hire the engineering firm, PLD did. We had nothing to do with it.
We paid for it.
We paid half of it after it already got started, and we weren't in consultation with them, number one. And number two, though, Councilman, and again, with all due respect, and I don't want to cut you off, but the fact of the matter is, if it is the intention of this drainage board to do like we did in most of the other parts of the parish, and that is to go forward with a levee pump system for that area, state it, vote on it, and we'll proceed with what your wishes. If you're willing to spend $40 million for this project, we will proceed with it. But again, what we're saying is, we're skipping around this thing by saying, well, we're gonna do a little maintenance dredging here, we're gonna spend a couple million, we'll do, this here, this, that. No, we're trying to handle specific problems. Now, if it is the wish of the board to go a levee pump system, vote on it. And tell us to proceed with it. We don't have to go with alternatives. We know right now it's gonna be $40 million plus, and it's gonna be real hard to permit, and it could be taking a long time to do. But again, if you task us to do it, we would do it.
We've been crystal clear for years in that we want to move forward with it. We want to move forward, and I'll give you an example. I've been to Split Log, back of Santa Mo, on all of these events that we've had, these 500-year events and all of that. And you go back there in the swamp. You could drive on every road over there. It was just as dry as can be. It was as nice as anything you want to see. Everybody else, I'm going around sandbagging hundreds of houses in a whole system, and I go back into the lowest place in the parish, and it's completely dry. Because we did our pumping system. Because the people in this parish had put up $200 million in the past 20 or 30 years for our drainage. We got money in drainage. We might not have money in this and that and everything, but we can't say we don't have money in drainage. And we need to take that drainage money, and we need to spend it. And I'm not beating around the bush. Right now, we got two things on the agenda. Let's muck them out like we should be doing. We shouldn't have to come over here. This body should not have to come over here and vote to make administration go out and clean our canals. We should be cleaning. We should not have to vote for that. But we got to vote to force administration to clean canals.
Councilmember, the one thing that we do not do is throw good money after a bad project.
Well,
we don't want to throw good money after a project, not to show the benefits of the project.
I expect our ditches to be clean. After that, this body will vote on moving forward. Right now, the first step is to do enough studies, and I hate to do study, but we got to do study to find out alternative is where we should head.
You don't need alternatives. You want a pumping system. A pump is self-explanatory. You either put two pumping systems in, one on Panama, one on Conway with a short levee, or you do one pumping station with a long levee.
And that's what we're spending this money for us to determine so that we can vote on which one we're going to spend our money on.
Well,
and we want to move forward with it.
Well, let's be specific. And let's not go with this other stuff. Let's don't spend $1.5 million doing a maintenance of it. We can do maintenance, a little bit at a time and stuff like this.
No, we don't.
The maintenance of that, I'm telling you right now, and I'm going to tell the people at Pelican Point, I'm going to tell the people on Hardison Lane, and you clean that. You remove the silt from that. I've been doing it for 15 years. You remove the silt, you have a major rainfall in excess of 25 to 50 years, and you will not see a benefit. Period.
So why are we
So you're
cleaning
not gonna
out?
see, and that's why we're coming up and say, let's don't spend 2 or 3 million. If you want to go with a pumping system, let's spend that money on going forward with the pumping system.
So I'm getting mixed bags here. We're talking about doing a major thing to clean out Kluwat ditch. We're doing a major thing to clean out Black Bayou and everything. If it doesn't do any good, then why are we wasting our money doing all these things?
What we're doing we're not doing anything on those other channels. They're already cleaned on Black Bayou.
We're not expanding that at all.
The Black Bayou?
Yeah, I think so.
Not that I know of.
Which one are we cleaning? Goudin?
We just finished the Goudin.
Okay.
The upper limits of the Goudin, and it wasn't more or less, it wasn't more of a drainage issue, more of a erosion issue. We had to stabilize the bank line.
And we're cleaning out the bottom.
But that's ditches.
We're
That's not
cleaning out
channels.
ditches.
There's a big
We
difference
need
between
to
cleaning
clean
a
out
ditch
our canal.
and cleaning out a canal. Now, if you want a benefit, if you want a drainage benefit from a headwater event, not backwater, let's throw backwater off the thing. You get a surge like we did in Isaac, forget about it, you're on your own, okay? But if you want to do a benefit, a major drainage benefit, you go through there and you do a enlargement, top enlargement of the Panama and Conway, and you provide a benefit, a drainage, a storage and conveyance benefit. If you do not widen the top, if you just muck the bottom, and that spot mucking, just those selected locations, you're not going to provide a benefit at all. Now, again, I'm all for it. If you want to do the full width, like we did with the Bayou Francois and Black Bayou in 2001 and 2, do a major expansion of those channels, yes, that is a benefit. In addition to that, you at least triple or quadruple the size of the train trestle at St. James, and you remove the bridge at
We don't
the airline.
have to touch. We don't have to touch. No, just said we don't have to touch the railroad track.
If
because
you
we
do a
can-
pump system.
No, we don't, because we can put the pumps on the other side, on this side of it, and pump over the levees.
What kind of pumps you talking about?
Pump, a force pump in that system, just like we have in our other systems. And
Well, you're talking about a floodgate with a pumping
I want
system
to,
on it.
I want to move forward and get a report from an outside engineer that tells us what our options are, so we can come over here as a body and vote on it, decide whether we want to spend 40 million or 20
Well,
million.
we're
or
going a
whatever.
step further than that, because we're going to an outside source right now, and we're waiting on it. It's from the Corps of Engineers to come back with us with their determination of that report, their model. They run the model again, and they're looking at all of these issues, and they're gonna come back to us and tell us, from their standpoint, what is the best to go with. And that should be done, like I stated in my report and to everybody here, that's due in about another month. And we talked to them again Thursday. It's due in about another month. And when we see that, we can see their opinion, which is they're not getting paid to write a report that might give them more money. This is purely unbiased. They're gonna tell us what their consideration is for us, benefit, cost of a project, and also permitting problems.
Well,
Now, if they come back and tell us, hey, look, you need to go ahead and enlarge this channel by 30%, whatever. Do this, do that, and we'll help you with the permits. Let's go, rock and roll. Now, if they come back and say, look, all of this is not feasible, too much money, hard to permit, do this and that instead of this, we'll look at it. And y'all can determine where you need to go from that point.
this is the thing that bothers me. Whether it's too much money or not is not for anybody else. It's not for the Corps to determine. It's not for the administration to determine. It's for this body right here, whether we're going to spend that money or not. That's what it is for. We make recommendations. We get your recommendation about how we go about doing things, and then we decide whether we're going to spend this money. That's what we were elected for. That's where we went knock on those doors. That's why we were over there whenever they sandbagging and we walking into people's houses. But I am not going to go another week where I got to think about a rain like they did last night, if it had been twice as much, and then I got to go face somebody over here and walk into their house when they got water in it or when they sandbagging and they worried about what's happening, and I'm going to tell them, no, we're not doing everything we can do, because you cannot tell me, you cannot convince a person in this parish that cleaning a system, a bayou, or ditch, or anything else out is not gonna benefit them. That's something we can do starting tomorrow. And I'd like to see us move forward to that. That's done. We should have done that 2 years ago when we met in the office. That's simple, that's maintenance.
Yeah, but
After
Councilmember,
that
that
we
went
need
two
to move
ways on
forward.
that. We went from a major dredging project down now to silt removal. I mean, that's the difference. And when we talk about major drainage project, you know, everybody knew that the Corps was absolutely against taking anything down, widening the span, the top width of that ditch, both ditches, because of the trees, because of the environmental issues and everything else. And that's why we jumped back, or, you know, Councilman, you did, jump back to maintenance cleaning. And then that's when we came back and said, maintenance cleaning is not gonna solve the problem. You're not gonna get a benefit from it. Now, if you wanna go with a major project, vote on it, we'll go with a major project to benefit. The only thing we're looking at is what will benefit for a major drainage issue in that area, be it both backwater flooding or headwater flooding. You gotta distinguish the difference, okay? They're not the same. You give us a task, we'll go forward with it. But again, if you know, you come up with this and just say, go with it, yeah, the Corps don't have the right to tell us how much money to spend, but we as an administration has the responsibility to say, this is a good project, the benefits are there for the cost we're spending, and we're willing to go forward with it. It's our responsibility, but we need the information to us to make that determination and recommendation to y'all.
Okay, Mr. Roof, Mr. Shakes. Now, Mr. President?
I just have a couple exceptions to what's been said here about the meeting we had. When we had the meeting, we were gonna clean the ditches over there on 22. We did all that. We also did a lot of projects in that area to help. We went and we said you wanted to clear and snag the Panama Canal and the Conway. We spent $2 million doing that. So we did that part. Then you said you wanted a barge with a thing. We got 2 barges that we're cleaning out the different areas with. So what we talked about that day in that office, I think we did pretty much all of it. Now, we had another meeting at Pelican Point where we talked about some of these scenarios. And if you look at the paper that's in front of you, we've been working hard on that to try and get to that point and come up with a solution. And the other thing is, I don't know if anybody on this board ever went and read the Follett plan, but the Follett plan is only good for a 5-year event. If you look at it, that's what it says. And I don't want anybody to think that pumps or anything else in this area is going to ever help if we have a Category 5 that comes up Lake Maupoa. Because guess what? We're all going to be swimming. Santa Ma, Sorrento, Pelican Point, everything to the airline is going to be swimming. So, I mean, we've been working hard to satisfy you, your constituents, and everybody else. We've put all of our efforts in that area, and we've been doing a lot. Now, I've been meeting with the Corps. I'm steadily meeting with them. I called for another meeting next week after next to go and meet with them on some of these projects to see what we can do and not do. But, I mean, it's not like we can just jump and go and do this right away and go and start digging. We got to have permits. I mean, I don't think anybody in here wants us to go and violate any permits. We went through that. I went through it for 8 years.
Nobody's saying nothing about.
But I don't like to be badgered up here and sit here and say like we're not doing a damn thing. I don't think that's right.
I didn't say that. I said we said that we were going to go forward at the same time with a permit when we had the snagging and dredging, which is what the first thing, and they said they were going to go by parallel to get the permit for the maintenance dredging. That was said, agreed upon, and everybody walked out of there then. And that's what I'm talking about. On these major things. Yes, we've done we've done a great job of individually addressing different subdivisions. But to do a major thing like the Henderson Bayou thing, that's the next step. We just need to move forward with this.
Yes, that's what we're trying to find out.
But Councilman, I mean, again, you got to be. The way we work things according to some set rules. Number one is if we're going to solve a drainage issue, at what rain event are we going to protect them at? Is it a 10-year? Basically, all your subdivisions 10-year, okay? Pelican Point, all of them 10-year at best, okay? If they get a 25, 50-year event plus, they're going to have problems, okay? Then you come back or then we expect to say, okay, wait a minute. Yeah, they handling that 20-year event, no problem. But you know, they had a 50 and they got problem. Let's go fix a 50-year event. Okay, we fixed the 50-year to get a 100-year event. Oh, they got a problem, let's go fix the 100-year event. Again, we need to know what rain event, what type of event you want us to solve, and we will solve it.
Are we ready for a motion?
Yeah, hold on just a minute. We're gonna, Mr. Turner, I believe.
Yeah, do we have a question? As far as the Astroland subdivision, what do we have going on to protect that subdivision?
Well,
I
if
got
you-
a few calls
Yeah,
today.
if you read my report and everything, and I'll be specific with two subdivisions, Pelican Point and Astroland. If in fact in that area, if your main concern from backwater or rainwater, headwater, if your main concern is Pelican Point and Astroland, we can solve that with nobody's help. Just a man, if Astroland is a ring levee toward the back of it, temporary pump when needed. Same thing with Pelican Point. We can do protection along Panama itself with the outlets, controlled outlets going in where their ditches drain into it. When it gets too high to get out, we put portable pumps down, we pump it over. They come down, they okay. Again, that spot, if that's the only concerns, we can fix that without spending millions and millions of dollars on this other stuff. Now, if it's area-wide, that's a whole different issue. And we can solve this for Pelican Point and for Astroland without any problem. But again, but we haven't had that much problem downstream of Panama. Conway's a whole different story, but we're talking about Panama.
And in order to implement those two procedures, what will be the time frame?
The main thing is the determination of the drainage board on what they wish us to do, basically. If they want to proceed with one, both of them, or something like this, or looking at the two, that's fine. We'll look at it and come back and tell you the cost and timeline on it. I can't tell you right now because, again, I don't have the authority to say we automatically go spend this money and do this. If your wish to look at one or both of those alternatives, we'd be glad to. Come to the next meeting and tell you how much it costs and the timeline on doing it. But again, and this is, I'll go back to the West Shore project. One of the main reasons, well, one of the conditions that the Corps of Engineers came back with said that the putting the levee all the way to Ascension Parish was not feasible, was not doable. However, local control structures, ring levees and as such at certain areas was beneficial and could be permitted. So we're looking at same thing on this. You know, if it's just certain areas, you can do two things. Number one is you can do localized protection and then protect everything in those two areas. And at the same time, put in more strict ordinances in that floodplain for anybody building or putting anything up. And say raise it up so, you know, what we don't want to do, and you got to watch yourself on, is that we're looking at structural flooding and the protection of individuals, not nuisance flooding. And to us, spending millions and millions of dollars for nuisance flooding is not the best way of spending public money. If you can do that in localized areas and protect those people and put in ordinances where everybody else got to build up, keep your storage area for that flow to go to, that's the best means. It's better than a floodgate and pumps. Because once you have that, it's a lot of problems.
Well, I can't speak for Ken, but I know my constituents in the Astroland area are looking for some solutions now, not solutions 15, 20 years down the road. So for my area, you know, we would like to look into that berm in the rain. And it was my understanding after the last rain event, that's what we were supposed to be looking into.
We did, and to be honest with you, Councilman, it came into this same problem we have with everything. Do we design and protect a localized area from a major historic event? Do we do it for a 25-year event? Do we do it a 10-year event or 500-year event? The fact of the matter is, and I'll be honest with you, Councilman, they never had a problem in that area in the backwater flooding with a 25, 50-year event. When they got this major backwater event from a 500-year rain event, they had a problem. So again, you know, I'm trying to be logical with everybody. You know, what do you want us to do? What event you want us to protect the people from? What type of event? We will protect them. But we can't just come out there and say, what if we had a 600-year event or a 1,000-year event in next year and all of a sudden we raise everything? Well, hell, that 500, no, hell, let's go with 1,000. I mean, you got to put a limit. You got to say what we can do and we can't do and put the event, the type of rain event or problem you want us to solve it, we'll solve it.
Is that all, Mr. Turner? Mr. Clewis?
Yeah, Mr. Rue. Being the past chairman of drainage, I know the effort, Mr. Shakes and I, that we put into the Sorrento area. We put the gate about 22, right there. We put the portable pumps every time. We went in. Astraland, Mr. Turner, we went in and did some major work in that whole area. Had everybody that was working for drainage in that area, okay? And I agree with Mr. Rue on one point. I agree with Mr. Shakes not 100%, but I agree with Mr. Rue on one point. Make a decision. If you want to protect Pelican Point and Astraland, but they got plenty more subdivisions out there. And personally, I represent Santamon. All right. You know, yeah, we got the 6 pumps. We sandbagged my house. All right. We sandbagged Buxton subdivision. So being at the bottom, while Mr. Shakes not have said he went on split log and was riding around good and high and dry. Well, split log is a quarter of a mile from the pump as the crow flies. All right. That's a good place to be, but that don't mean you're always out of the water. All right. Okay. We sandbagged a hell of a lot of places other than these places. So we talked last year, like Mr. Shakes not have said, a year and a half ago, started talking. And you had a major plan that would put the levee. We got to think about St. James Parish, and I don't mean think about them, but I mean they become part of it because the water don't know the parish line. So that major plan to put a full levee and put pumping stations, Panama Conway, that's pretty expensive. But like Mr. Shakes and I said, we ain't gonna talk about money. Just get the plan in front of us. If that is the thing, then hey, let's look at it. You know, we kind of rearranging some money at the end of this meeting right here. You know what I mean? So if that's the thing, let's do it. I do believe that some improvements to Clewis ditch over there is going to help those people along that area. Okay, 'cause they need some help there.
And we're working
Yeah.
on trying to benefit
And I
those
believe
people,
in what
doing
you're
everything
saying about
possible.
making that cut, get it across the airline, and get it over there in
If
French.
not, there'll be a temporary something until the more comprehensive plan is done, but it's something that's needed and that can be done fairly easy and fairly cheaply. And that's what we're moving forward with, to try to benefit those people immediately. But let me, okay.
I just want to tell you, because I tell everybody, I live in Santamon. I can watch the tide in Lake Maurepas in the ditch back of my house. I live right by the Santamon Park, by the way, okay? Lake Maurepas going up and down with the tide, all right? So if the gates don't get closed pretty quick, we're going to get the backwater flooding, all right? And that's a constant thing. So the big plan might be better than the small plan. I don't disagree with Mr. Turner and Mr. Shakes. Now, if they got specific areas they want to fix, but
And again, all due respect, Councilman Shakes, I mean, we've been friends for many, many years. The whole thing is that we don't want to, again, throw good money after a bad project. If we're going to go with a comprehensive project, let's go with it. I mean, vote on what you want us to do. Now, I go back in history. I go back to 2000, I think, Todd, I think you, and Councilman Shakes, when they said they wanted a comprehensive plan, and bond money, and they asked me, they gave me the task of putting together these projects. Y'all named the projects you wanted, and you said you figure out how to finance it and put it together and do it, and we did it. They're precise. They wanted a Henderson Bayou, Law Ridge Levee Extension, and a few other things done, and we did it. If you want a levee pump system for Conway, Panama, in that area, that task us, and we'll figure it out and see what we can do about it. And it may become impossible, and we'll come back with that. But and I'll give you another for instance. When did we dredge Black Bayou and Bayou Francois? 2000, 2001. The pump station was put in effect in 1990, 91, 92. It was 10 years later until the dredging. I don't have a problem. Let's go with a major project. Then we'll improve the channels and everything else going to it. But let's see if we can do the major project first, if in fact that's your wish. But we have to see if we got the money, we can finance it. And again, we had to work a bond to do our other major projects.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rue.
I got one.
Go ahead, Mr. Lambert.
Bill, $40 million, do we have that in the budget right now?
No.
That would have to be out, that would be another bond or financing. in order to get more?
For you to do it immediately, it has to come from another type of bond or some kind of other financing. Now, we probably have the revenue, to finance it, but we can't pull it from our coffers and everything right now to absolutely do it all.
And I'm a little confused. I don't know if I sat in on the meetings they sat in. I know I didn't sit in in Tommy's office. I've never heard of a pumping station on Conway in Panama. I've always heard of cleaning the canals, dredging them, getting the silt, get the water moving forward. And the railroad has always been, and y'all working on that project now.
We're working on railroad too.
I guess my big problem is, if we move to redirect everything we're gonna do right now, all what y'all been doing and getting closer to getting accomplished, is gonna go, you're gonna be just putting that on the shelf, and we're starting all over again. To start from scratch, you're talking some time, and these people don't have time. And that's one thing I'm kind of concerned about.
The only thing that I'm concerned about is for us to spend several $1 million and a rain event happens and the same thing that's been happening to these people happen again, and they look at us and say, what in the hell are y'all doing?
Yeah.
Well, we did this, it wasn't gonna work, we gotta go to something else. I'm telling you right now, a major rain event is this maintenance of the silt is not gonna improve it to the standpoint of protection for these good people. If you are going to do a dredging, you do a massive dredging like we did in Black Bayou, in Bayou Francois. You enlarge the top width. That's the only way you get capacity and you get conveyance. You get your flow up, is to enlarge that top width. Because that's where the flow is in the center. The flow is not at the bottom. Only about 5% of your flow is coming around the wetted perimeter of it. It's in the center part. You widen that center part and get capacity. So the rainfall has a place to go, and store it, and get it out. And that's my only point.
So, Bill, would widening the top and improving the flow, would that still be necessary under a pumping, once the pumping system was done?
That would have to be analyzed, but the way, and again, we went down the 2 channels Thursday, and we got a film, anybody want to look at, on our Parish YouTube of the complete route, Panama and Conway by boat, so you can actually see what it looks like. The channels are really, I think, of course, you have to go back with a model of it with the pumping station involved, because now it's a forced system, you're pulling that water. But because of that, I think they're big enough, like they are with some minor changes. I think they're big enough to handle what needs to be going. Because again, it's forced, it's not gravity. So you actually, it's a whole different scenario, which has not been modeled yet. But it's a whole different scenario.
I would be interested to see if widening them would also be, we wouldn't be wasting money if we widened them, if we were going to do this major project.
The problem with widening them is now, again, we're looking at money. If you're going to put that into our, if you're going to do that first, you up front, you're talking about 6, 7 million more maybe, 8 million, 9 million. If you're going to increase the top width, if you can get a permit to do it, which is very unlikely you can get a permit. If you can't get a permit, it costs a lot of money. And I'm going back, we did it in 2001 and 2 and 3 with the other bayous. Millions and millions of dollars to do it. But again, it probably can be done, but again, you got a permit issues on it also.
Well, no,
but if you're willing to spend that much money, then you also got, my point is, if your ultimate plan is to go with a levee pump system, spend your money on that first, your protection and your pumping system. Then you fall back and do your widening or you do improvements within if it's not substantial.
Well, I feel like nothing that gives people relief or protection is a waste if it can supplement the future project in any way. And don't forget my people on the Bluff Swamp.
Again, I'm stating stuff right now that's not exactly the way it is either, because we have limits to the opening up the bayou. We have limits because we can open it up a lot bigger. We get a permit for it, we get equipment, we hire it out, we go and do it. When you get down to a railroad trestle, airline highway, and St. James Parish, that's a whole different issue. The dredging that we did on Black Bayou, Bayou Francois, and everything was upstream of the pumping station. So we're in total control of that. What this means, if in fact you could do only dredging. Now again, you can do dredging up to, that's why I'm saying, let's put the pump station in, the levee system in. If we can do that and get the money to do it, do that first, and then you dredge up to it. okay? You do that upstream, you don't have to worry about downstream. But don't waste your money doing it all the way to St. James Parish if you're gonna stop it below Sorrento. Now you wasted that money because of really no benefit if you're gonna put a levee pump system in.
So what's the time frame for this major project? What are we looking at? If we voted tonight to initiate this major project, what are we looking at?
Well, I don't, well, maybe,
And I know that
maybe
has to be
Mr. Lohr,
approximate.
maybe Mr. Turner might be still here. I don't think the rest of it be around voting on it when they, or at the site, you know, cutting the ribbon. It's a long term, especially with the regulations in place now. Long term.
So would it, go ahead, Tommy, you're
We,
obviously.
you know, we're open to anything. That's what we've been trying to do, is look at all the options. That's where we're at now, and that's what we've been discussing. What would be the best alternate to do this? In the meantime, we've done what we can do as far as opening the canals up. I mean, there's some points that we can go in and dredge and take the silt away where the, by the interstate is a spot that we've had to do when I was in before. We had to go in and clean that. So those things can be done, but we need to come up with one specific plan. The one that's, what Bill's saying in a few words would be to find the best plan that fits this, that would be the cost effective to everyone here and to make it work. So everybody's trying to work to get to the same point here, but we're just trying to give you as many options as we can possibly do and the cost on each one. So that way, if you vote, you'll know what you're voting on.
Well, my concern would be that if this is a 25-year plan to get these folks to a long-term holistic approach to this problem, what do we do in the interim? We cannot just leave them out there to flood. I mean, we should be able to do some
Let's think of
intermediary
this.
projects.
Let's back up a minute. Exactly what problem occurred that brings all of these people up here complaining, or I say, you know, giving us their concerns, valid concerns. But is it a problem with the 500-year event, that major rainfall? Is it a problem with Isaac? Okay. Is it a problem that if they feel there's a problem with a standard 10, 25, 50-year event that they're having a problem with? And if that's the case, we need to know. But again, I mean, and my apologies to them, the fact of the matter is the parish cannot protect the people without spending millions of dollars on a pump station levee system, and then future maintenance of it forever, and the channels and everything going to it, to satisfy a one-time event, and this is a 0.2% chance of happening in any single year. 0.2. I'll take those odds to gambling any time. I mean, 0.2%. The thing is, if you're going to protect the people of that, then you got to back up and say, I'm protecting those people for that type of event. How about all the other subdivisions that had the same problem? We had a lot of subdivisions around here that flooded and had a lot of problems with the 500-year event.
Oh, yeah, I was out there in
So,
my district.
And again, then you got to back up and say, well, look, we're spending all this to protect them from this event. Aren't we obligated to protect everybody?
Well,
I mean, so again, you got to clarify. You just can't use the fact that over the last 6 years, 7 years, 10 years, whatever, they had 3 events that really caused a lot of problems, or 10 events, or whatever. Then okay, what events did cause you the problem? Now let's take the 500 off the table.
Okay.
Take it off. Now let's look at every other event for the last 10 years where we had some major problems. And then you say, okay, we'll solve that. But we, you know,
That makes sense.
I mean, that's the only thing I'm saying, because people get confused. They don't understand what happened. They don't understand the intensity of this thing. In fact, when I say 500 year, it went off the charts. 15 inches. We have never had more than 7, 8 inches. This thing was in excess of 500 year. So again, you know, that's a extreme situation. And we don't, you know, we just can't, as a parish, go out and just satisfy every event that might come up. We just can't. I mean,
Well, it's the responsibility of this body to figure out what
and that's,
event we're going
and
to
that's all I want the people
resolve.
to understand
And
is
we're happy
the,
to take that responsibility.
Right. And again, I'm all for it if they can show, or we can go back, we've been looking at the records, we can show, especially on Silverleaf and Hardison, that's a whole different story, because they have problems every time they get a 10-year event. 10 and 25-year event, they got problems there. we're going forward with something that we can do almost immediately, very cheaply, because we're using our own forces to do it, to try to at least temporarily take the relief off of them.
Okay, so you are willing to do some
Oh, yeah, we're
temporary
doing
fixes
stuff.
to some areas where there's
Exactly.
a 10-year event that's a
Now,
factor?
and I'm telling you right now, for a 25 to 50-year event in Pelican Point, with the change that we made with that ditch coming in there, I went there this morning, no problem at all, and we had like 3.5 inches in just several hours. No problem. And I'm telling you right now, if they had the 500-year event like they did a year or so ago, they would not have the same problem in that area immediately now, because of the fact we've made that one change over there that was putting the majority of the water into the upper portion of the subdivision. When we blocked that up, barricaded that, and rerouted that water down 22, it solved the biggest portion of their immediate problems. Now, they had longer range problems when Panama got to the elevation of about 8.5, 8.49. When they got to that elevation, that water could not get out and start backing up. That's another issue. But that was specifically for the 500-year rain event that filled everything up, backed everything into that subdivision. Now, again, if that's something that is a concern, and y'all really want to protect those people, we can do a protection along Panama itself with control structures at their outlets into there. When it gets up and starts backing in, we can pump out with just portable pumps that we rent that we do at other locations and get the water out.
With those too.
But again, I mean, you got to give us the marching orders, okay? And if you don't give it, we'll come up with our own.
So I haven't had a chance to read this very thoroughly, but what is your recommendation for a level, so in order to move this thing along, what's your recommendation for the level of event that we should solve this problem to? Obviously throwing out the 500-year event?
25-year. 25-year. Right now, all the subdivisions at 10, we're trying to move everything up to 25-year. We're already doing culverts, internal drainage. The department's already mandated that we don't put anything in unless they match a 25-year event or can handle a 25-year event. And we're trying to get subdivisions to do the same. But
So which
a
one of your
25-year
plans-
event, and
which
I don't
one of
even
your
mind
plans-
moving up in some kind of protection on a 50-year event.
Which one of your plans, proposals, what is that 25-year plan, if you may so briefly tell me, what does that look like?
If you can use the number 25, right now for Pelican Point, it's a look and see, it's a watch, and see what happens when you get a 25-year. Right now, I don't think they're going to have much of a problem in that with a 25-year, okay? And again, that's when it backs up there and causes significant problems. Now, let me back up again, in all due respect. We had a 500-year event, and the main problems in Pelican Point was the road flooding and couldn't get in and out, no structural flooding.
What I'm
So again, a
looking for, though,
25-year event might cause some moderate road flooding, but that's what the roads are made for. They made for conveyance of the water to the drain system. They may have some spot, but not that a car can't get into, and it would go away in several hours.
So you're saying you don't propose any fix for a 25-year event?
Not in Pelican Point. I mean, we already did something that
I'm
would
kinda talking about
benefit them.
holistically here. I'm talking about a holistic approach to
And
this
now,
problem.
on Panama, no. I don't look at anything for a 25-year event that would help them, or in fact, they don't have that much of a problem on a 25-year event.
Okay, so
You
so
get
we'll be
into a
looking at
25-year event on Conway, it's a different story. And we're proposing something, we're working on something to help those people out, at least temporarily, to get that water out of there so they don't have the problem they've been experiencing in the past with a 25-year event. Now, even with that benefit, you get into a 50-year event, I mean, a 100-year, 200, 500-year event, it's a whole different story. And we cannot be expected to protect the people with that kind of event. Now, let me back up one more thing. And I'm filling everybody with a lot of information, but the other thing is the fact that we're going through an accreditation process for our levee systems. It's a possibility that FEMA will mandate that we continue the levee system and completely enclose the parish before they accredit any levee. It's a possibility. Now, if that happens, if we want any of our levees accredited, we have to put this levee pump system in and actually extend some levees on Henderson Bayou further up to make it higher. So that's a whole different issue there, too. I mean, so we're looking, seeing about a whole lot of things right now.
All right, well, That's information I really didn't want to get. Mr. Law, let's finish up. Mr. Law, you had anything?
Just real quick question. When you're getting back the information to us so we can make the cost-benefit analysis and decision and everything, you mentioned the widening of the top would actually provide a benefit, but it may be 6 million versus, if we do a pumping station, it's 30 or whatever. Can you tell us what the, and you don't have to do it right this second, but what the benefit would be for each of those in terms of either the 25, 50, 100 years, or in terms of, for widening that top, what exactly does that?
Well, you get a total benefit for all events.
But in terms of levels, in terms of protection.
Well, again, you design, the way you do it is, you figure out and you tell your engineering firm, design that ditch to handle a 50-year event, 25-year event, 50-year, 500-year. Based on that information, they can tell you how wide it got to be.
Can you give us those options and costs and everything else for, why?
We could get order of magnitude, that could be given.
That would be
just
good.
the order of magnitude. But again, I mean, they need instructions just like us. You can't go to the engineering firm and say, give us a benefit of this. Well, on what order?
Okay.
But we can certainly look at that scenario.
Mr. Shakes, now go ahead and finish up.
This is very simple. We've been asked to give directions. We got short-term improvements and long-term problem. All we're looking for is the same type of improvements that they had in Henderson Bayou and Marvin Bro, whatever conditions it was on that, whatever we designed for that, that's what we're looking for. And we're looking at number 12 to have the administration proceed with the environmental permitting for maintenance dredging in the selected sections of Panama Canal, and I'd like to offer that as a motion.
Motion by Mr. Shakes, now
I'll second that.
second by Mr. Kluwat. Discussion?
Yes, real quick.
Go ahead, Mr. Kluwat.
Mr. Shakes, I do believe that within your area, that in the interim, if Mr. Roux can pursue that Kluwat ditch and move that out to Francois, that might help those folks. But I agree with you on a big levy.
It may. We're going to be moving forward with our permit.
Thank you, sir.
Any opposition to number 12? Not, motion passed.
Yeah, again, to reiterate, that process, that project, and that permit is already ongoing, and we should have it sent to the application, sent to the Corps for JD within another 30 to 60 days. So that's ongoing, and that's going to be done.
Appreciate that.
So-
Mr. Shakes, now
Number 13, Director of Administration to move to contract negotiations for development of engineering alternatives to a levee and pump system, a drainage of Panama and Conway.
Moved by Mr.
To
Kluwat.
give us alternatives. Second.
Second by Mr. Shakes, now. Discussion? Any opposition to the motion? Motion passed. Back up to number 4. Want to offer the acceptance of the minutes for February 2nd.
Motion.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kluwat, second by Mr. Sadler. Any opposition? None, motion passed. Under number 5, my chairman's report, I just want to let everyone know that the public hearings that we had at the Santa Mar Park, I thought it was well attended. A lot of good information. Bill, you had any other comments or any questions sent back in? Back?
No, the same one from the same person that we're trying to handle. That's it.
Okay. Mr. Floyd, you had anything from you?
I just want to thank everybody that participated in that meeting, and I want to express, just like I did at the end of the meeting, for some of the folks, a lot of times people are for something, they don't get up and speak. And that people, I just try to let a bunch of people know that there's an avenue for them to put their comments in. They can send emails in or send a letter in or whatever, to both the engineering firm and the parish. And appreciate everything that Bill, that all of y'all done. And
But GSA did a
GSA
phenomenal job
and,
on that. They
Jake.
put everything together and handled the process perfectly.
and I want to thank everybody that went there. It was a very civil conversation, no matter what the subject was. Appreciate the folks of Santa Mar being that way.
Thank you, Mr. Kluwat. We'll move on to number 6, the drainage report. Mr. Root.
I'm just have one comment, and that is on Bluff Swamp, the Frog Bayou, we're surveying about 2 or 2.5 acres where the locks are with permission from Mr. Bonifay. And as soon as we get that survey in, we're going to go with appraisal of it, and then we get into negotiations and stuff like this. So we are moving forward, at least that part, and we're moving forward with the permitting and other stuff and through
Simultaneously.
with GSA, Iberville Parish and everything. So we are doing something there.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Good job. We'll move on to number 7, amend change order number 3, BJM Construction for Man Shack Drainage Improvement, no cost increase. Bill?
Yeah, if you look at the handout that accompanied this, a supplemental, you notice at the bottom, I've changed some numbers. Basically, it's my mistake. What I did, I used a template from change order number 2 to write change order number 3. But at the bottom, when it had the original contract and the other figures, I didn't change that. So this change order is just to change those figures. It's still no cost, but I need to show it on the bottom of this sheet, and it's my mistake. So what this is for.
Moved by Mr. Law.
Second.
Second by Ms. Gasso. Any opposition to the motion? Not, motion passed. We'll go on to number 8, authorization to contract between EAC GDD, number 1, with the Louisiana Resource LLC for wetland mitigation credits. Mr. Rue?
Yes, sir. If you also look at the supplemental that was handed out, we took, actually bids from about 8 different wetland companies, mitigation companies. This one is $14,000. It was the lowest of it. And these are all companies recommended by the Corps. This is specifically for what we call the Bayou Francois lateral number 1, which is the bayou going through Papera Road and within the city. And has to do improvements to that and do a 2-tier project. And we recommend going with that company for the cost of $14,000.
Moved by Mr. Cluett, second by Mr. Lambert. Discussion? None, motion passed. Move on to number 9, Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, HMGP 4080-005-0003, elevation project, site 1-539. That's a cooperative endeavor agreement. Mr. Rue?
Yes, sir, and that is to authorize the district for the parish president, Tommy Martinez, to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with the homeowners of elevation site 1-539 in the amount of $159,594 and 75-25 split with the homeowner and federal government and in accordance with all FEMA required regulations.
So moved.
There's no cost to the parish grant program.
Moved by Mr. Lambert, second by Ms. Caswell. Any discussion? Any opposition? None, motion passed. We're going to
Number 10.
That is another hazardous mitigation grant program. Mr. Rue, go ahead.
Yes,
and
to
take care.
authorize Parish President Tommy Martinez to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with the homeowners of the elevation site 2-48396 in the amount of $147,583. Same thing, 75-25, in accordance with all FEMA required regulations.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Caswell.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lambert. Any discussion? None, motion passed. Number 11, authorization to bid Villa Road Bridge replacement. Mr. Rue?
Yes, sir, we just asking for authorization to proceed with the bidding of that road bridge.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Mr. Lambert.
Second.
Second by Mr. Schneider. Any discussion? None, motion passed. We'll move on to number 14, discussion of refinancing and refund options. Mr. Jim Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you all have a copy of this?
Yes.
Packet? Yes, sir. So just kind of an update. The 2005 bonds that we've been talking about have been defeased, and that's kind of a weird thing. It's a good thing for y'all because you don't pay them anymore. Several years ago, back in 2008, I think it was, 2007, the parish put up the money in an escrow account and bought investments to pay those bonds off, the smaller bond issue that we've been talking about refunding. So those bonds are actually off your books. We don't have to worry about it anymore. You're not paying them. You have an investment account set up that is paying those bonds. Those were the little bonds we were talking about, the short-term, small, it's like $2 million we were talking about. So that's off the table. What you have left is the larger refinancing of the 2007 bonds. And all I'm doing today is showing you the three scenarios without considering paying, what we were thinking about paying off the small 2005 portion of it. It's already been done. It was done in 2008. So what I'm showing you today is just the larger 2007 refinancing, and these are the same three options we talked about before. And I really just wanted to get some input from y'all. I think the administration and President Martin and I have talked about this, and I think we both agree probably the third option on your far right is the best one because it saves you $7.175 million. So what you're looking at in the first set of numbers, the first column, is if you didn't do anything with the maturity. If you simply lowered the interest rate on your outstanding 2007 series bonds, your net savings would be about $3.392 million. And that's leaving the maturity the same. One of the other options that you all asked us to look at the meeting before last was what if we shorten the maturity to by 2 years with a final maturity of 2045. That saves you obviously more because you're paying it off faster. That saves you $5.4 million. The best option, and I think this is the one that we talked about before, is if you shorten the maturity by 5 years with your final payment 2043, you save $7.175 million. So that's kind of where we're at today. Those are pretty up-to-date numbers. I got the impression from y'all last time that your idea was to try to save as much money as possible. I just wanted to update you and make sure we were all kind of still on the same page with that.
Any questions, Mr. Ryan? Mr. Kluwer?
Yeah, Jim, as you sat through the prior conversations for the last hour, you can see that we may be looking for some money in the future. You know, and
we can do a bonding capacity analysis for you that will show you what your bonding capacity is. Obviously, because of the foresight of y'all in the administration, lowering your debt service and cutting terms off is going to help that.
yes,
And you guys are in excellent financial condition. And again, that's a credit to you, the administration, and your director. You manage your money very, very well. And I'm not just saying it because I'm here. I've got clients that I hate to, they ask if they can borrow money. My answer is there's no way you're ever going to be able to do that because you don't have the credit.
well, we're doing our share to try to hold up the state at this point. Thank you, sir.
We can provide you with that, and I will make sure we do that at the next meeting.
We have to make a motion on this.
We have three options. Ms. Castle?
Motion to encourage option 3.
I'll second that.
Moved by Ms. Castle, second by Mr. Shake Schneider. Discussion. None. Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
Motion adjourned, Mr.
Moved by
Chairman.
Mr. Lambert to adjourn.
Second.
Real quick, there's some guys that came by today from Livingston Parish. They've been working with their drainage and everything, and they wanted to kind of come to meetings and witness. Again, like we said, we sharing water. They had talked to me earlier a couple of weeks ago. We happen to be working out there, and they've been having their own problems, and they wanted to come and visit, and I wanted to acknowledge them earlier. And if we get a chance, if we have an opportunity, maybe some of us can go witness some of the drainage meetings in Livingston and meet with them. And so it would be a good thing. So just let you know, there is some dialogue going back and forth and similar things, and they talked about administration had been working with them and all. So just want to acknowledge people. We are working with other people.
Great. Moved by Mr. Lambert to adjourn,
Second.
second by Ms. Castle. To adjourn.